Hello, my friend. Welcome to another episode of Coffee with Clara Rose. So, if you've been with us before, you know that each week I show up and talk about everything that you need to know to be a savvy entrepreneur. Or we will have some wonderful guests on that are also savvy entrepreneurs or savvy authors here to talk about what they're doing. This week, I don't have a guest, so I'm just going to be dropping some knowledge on you. And it's actually a subject that matters to me. First of all, I'd just like to remind you that we're going to talk about topics that are for entrepreneurs or professionals who want to be savvy, right? And this topic today, managing change, is something that matters to all professionals and entrepreneurs. As a matter of fact, it could bring chills, cold chill down your spine when somebody says change, right? Depending on your personality, of course. Some people love change. I personally love change. It brings about a freshness or a new feeling, or just something cool is usually happening when change is happening. But there are people that it brings dread. So when change comes about, they're like, oh, I don't like change. Anything new makes them uncomfortable. And so today I want to talk about something that an entire industry is built around, which is managing that change, helping us all to feel a little bit more comfortable. Of course, I have to tell you that we're here to talk to savvy entrepreneurs and professionals, but any place in your life you could experience change. So let's talk about change and what that means. How do we manage change? First, I'm going to give you a nugget of truth that's not my own. It's from a Greek philosopher, Heraclitus, I think is how you say his name. Change is the only constant in life, and that is so true. It happens continuously. And of course, I'm going to give you a savvy tip. Things will change. It's part of life. How we respond makes all the difference in the world. So let's look at just a couple of examples of what that might mean. So personally, in my own professional life, I've been having a lot of change. This is a year of transition for me. I have some new things going on, and we've made some major changes in the structure and the function that happens in our office space. One of the changes that we made was we switched from Office 365 over to Google Workspace. I think that's what it's called now, Google Workspace. And I love it. I love that I can log in from any of my devices at home or at the office, and I can find everything just as it is when I'm at the office. Now, not everyone in the office has been so excited about this change. Some people who have been accustomed to finding Office 365 pulling into the desktop version of the Outlook, which we all know is going away, going by the wayside. As a matter of fact, Microsoft no longer supports the desktop version even. So once your version gets a hiccup or something goes awry or you get a new computer, you can't even have the old version any longer. So a particular person in the office has had a great deal of trouble with the new system. So he keeps trying to open the old Outlook. I'm like, no, you cannot access your email that way. Now, in truth, I could probably hook it up so it would pull to the Outlook, but I want him to learn the new way that we're doing things. So that's just a personality difference, I think, between the two of us. I like change. I like the newness. I like to see what other cool new things can be done, what's possible. He does not. So it's just a difference in how we look at things, and it's much more difficult for him to manage those transitions than it is for me to manage that transition. Because I like it, he does not. So let's talk about some ways that you can help yourself or those around you who have difficulty managing change. Let's talk first about preparing for change. When change is coming and you know it, if you have time, if time will allow, to make necessary preparations prior to it happening. So if you know it's coming, definitely make some preparations for it to come. Now, sudden changes can happen, and it can take some time for those transitions to take place. So if it happens suddenly, give yourself some time to assess what needs to happen next before you react. Don't do a knee-jerk, oh my gosh, this is terrible. we can't keep this. This is awful, right? Give yourself some time to settle in and figure out what needs to happen next. And then, of course, don't forget some good self-care. Good or bad, change can be taxing and you need to take some time for yourself sometimes. So my savvy tip here, of course, is the more prepared you are for change, the less anxious you're going to feel. That really kind of just cycles it back to that very first part, and that's prepare if you can. Now in the office, back to my example about our office transition, I talked about it for a month or so. We're going to make this transition, and it's going to be different in these ways. So giving other people in the office an opportunity to kind of wrap their head around the idea that change was coming, right? It's going to look different. It's going to feel different. But here are some of the positive benefits that are going to come from making this transition. So if you can just frame it in a way that people can wrap their mind around it, it's helpful. And if that someone is you that needs some help, take some time to look at the good and the bad. Now, I'm totally a list person, so I sat down and I wrote out the pros and the cons. It's kind of old school, but I like the visual of seeing it side by side. Like, okay, if we transitioned, what would we lose? What would we gain? How do they look different, function different? What am I giving up? What am I gaining? And that was super helpful, not as much for me, but it was helpful in helping me to prepare the others in the office for the transition. So being able to say, oh, when we transition over, you're going to be able to log in at home and check on things. No more running back to the office, even though it's only, 15 minutes from the house. No more running back to the office to just do a little thing. Or, oh, I got to remember to do that tomorrow because I forgot to do it today. Those kinds of things. So planning ahead, talking about it, preparing for it, those are just things that are going to help all of us to manage change just a little bit better. Okay. Now, this one might seem a little silly to some, especially if you're one of those people where change is no thing, no big deal. But if you're one of those people who struggle, I say find some support. Find someone. No need to face this alone. Ignoring it, of course, is not going to make it go away. Putting your head under the blanket or under the pillow doesn't make it disappear. And other people actually have ideas that can help you in the transition. They may be full of information that are going to help you along the way. And then, of course, if you need to, you can hire a coach if necessary. Find supportive family, friends, or a mentor to listen to, or just brainstorm ideas with. And my savvy tip here, of course, even if you are wildly independent, we are all better together. I get this question actually a lot from people that I work with. Do I really need a mentor? Do I really need a coach? Do I really need, fill in the blank? Do I really need these other people to help me along the way? Absolutely yes. Resounding yes. As a matter of fact, sometime in the next few months, I'm going to be bringing a couple of my own coaches and mentors onto the program to talk with you about the kinds of things that they help me with, because we all need help with something. We are not all experts in everything. So you have to find those people who can help you make those changes because they are experts or they are a good mentor. They've already done what you're trying to do, and they can walk with you, walk beside you, hold your hand if need be, along the journey that you're about to take. So this always surprises me. When we're growing up, we have coaches all the time, right? If you played sports, you had a coach. I was in gymnastics, I had a coach. Like when I played basketball, I had a coach. And we don't think anything of that. They're like, oh yeah, that's my coach. Or if you played professional sports, which I did not, but if you did, you had a coach. You likely had several coaches. So why is it that when we grow up, we become adults, we look at coaching differently sometimes? We think, oh yeah, I don't need a coach. I don't need somebody who has knowledge that I don't have to help me do something that I don't know how to do. Does that make any sense at all? Is there some sort of weird stigma that I just don't understand or I just don't know about, that when we grow up, we all of a sudden don't believe coaching has value. I I absolutely believe that coaching makes all the difference. It shortens the time between I don't know to I've got this mastered. Finding yourself a good coach is easy to do. There are a ton of them out there. So you say, all right, Clara, I need to learn X or I need to do X for this transition in my life. Go find somebody who's already done it or somebody who teaches it who can help you along the way. I'm just going to get off that little particular soapbox, but I'm just saying, find a coach. Find a coach. Okay, now let's talk about embracing change. So we already talked about the fact that change is going to happen, right? It's inevitable. It's a part of life. It's coming. So let's talk about embracing it. Instead of running scared from it, actually running toward it. Growth requires change. It's how we become a better version of ourselves. And when it comes to growth and change, your mindset really does matter. So I have a quote for you that I just love. C.S. Lewis says, "You cannot go on indefinitely being just an ordinary, decent egg. You must be hatched or go bad." I love that. Either hatch to the new you, or you're just going to rot, go bad. My savvy tip here, of course, is learn to embrace change as a new opportunity to create something wonderful. Now, of course, I am not the first to talk about the whole butterfly transition, right? Everyone talks about that, but they talk about it because it's a nugget of truth. It's gold, right? You have a caterpillar in one form, one stage of life, who then goes into a cocoon and makes changes and comes out totally transformed, totally different. They are completely transformed into the new who they're going to be. And we are not a whole lot different in that sometimes those changes take place in a cocoon. Right? Something's got to happen to make us, to push us to that next stage, to create change or growth in our lives. And the sooner we can learn to embrace that change, embrace what's coming, the more easily we're going to be able to navigate those changes in our life, with or without a coach. Although I highly recommend, of course, having a coach. A really good example, and if you've seen my show before, you have seen me talk about this, is writing a book. So most of you, if you've been here before, know that I, for a lot of years, have helped people publish their book, either a biography or a self-help book or something to help them grow their business. And we created a book together to help make that happen for them. And without having someone to help you through the process, what happens most of the time when people say, I'm going to write a book, and they sit down at their computer or their tablet or however they're going to record it, and they capture all their ideas. And then maybe they'll work on it a while or not. Often it goes into a drawer, it's stuck on your hard drive, wherever, and years later you say, I'm working on a book. Right? One of these days I'm going to finish my book. Or this is even worse. I'm going to write a book someday, but they don't start or they don't finish. They don't even move forward because they just don't know how. So hiring a coach who does know the process is somebody to come beside you and say, oh, here's the steps. Here's a proven, tried and true system for getting your book written. And that's why a lot of people call me a book coach. When I help them with their book, I don't think of myself as a coach. I think of myself more as a literary consultant, an editor, but I'm helping them through a process. They don't know how, I do, and together we make it happen. The sooner they step out and say, okay, this change is happening, this is coming, I'm going to get some help, the better it is for them. Okay, moving along. Let's talk about mindset. You have likely heard me talk about mindset before, and I often say mindset matters. How do you respond to these words that we're talking about today? How do you respond to someone talking about change or change management? What about these words? My day was unbelievable. How do you respond when somebody says that? How was your day? My day was unbelievable. So, do you see how that could go one of two ways? It could be, my day was unbelievably amazing, or my day was unbelievably awful. Can you see how mindset would make a difference? Do you see how mindset truly does matter when we're talking about words? Here's my savvy tip here. Your thoughts dictate your actions, and your actions dictate your life. So be intentional. Be intentional with the things that you do, the things that you say. And that goes for, what is our topic today? Change, managing change. Be intentional about the changes that you want to make. So what's another great example of being intentional about change? So you might be intentional about change by, say, I want to get in the best shape of my life. So you might hire a fitness coach or a personal trainer, whatever terminology they use. I think you can hire either. I don't know the difference actually, but you might hire someone to help you with that goal. So that is being intentional about trying to manage a change that in and of yourself you likely don't have the ability to do. Now, there's a lot of free advice. So you might say, well, Clara, couldn't I just Google it? Indeed, you probably could Google just about anything and find many people who are willing to give you free advice. There's nothing wrong with collecting data, collecting information about the change that's coming or the change that you want to come. There's not anything wrong with Googling it and learning about it. But when it really comes down to it, having somebody who has been down that road, who is a professional, who knows how to make the change happen, is your best bet. So it sounds a bit like I'm on a soapbox about that, isn't it? But I'm just saying, at the very beginning, I said that you need to plan for it. Plan for change to happen. Now, could you muddle your way through? Perhaps, depending on what you're trying to accomplish, but perhaps not. When I first started looking at the transition for my office from Office 365 over to the Google Workspace or Work Suite or whatever it is that they're calling it, when I first looked at it, I thought, oh, my office staff is not going to like this, right? Look how different it looks. This is totally desktop-based. This is totally web-based. You know, this one has, I don't have to be online features. This one I have to totally be online. So I Googled what the differences were. I Googled all of the pieces and then just looked at, what is this change going to do in my office? How might my staff, my husband, the other people around me, how might they feel about this change? And then I set about preparing for this change once the decision was made, preparing for this change, and then being intentional about it, being strategic and being intentional. Because you know that I'm always saying that, right? Savvy entrepreneurs are successful because they're strategic and they're intentional. So be strategic, be intentional, be savvy, right? That's what the whole be savvy movement is all about. Be smart, make good choices, be strategic about the things, the choices, and the changes that you decide to make, and then intentional about your actions to get you where you want to go. All right, let's recap on this. We have covered quite a few things. I just want to recap really quick before I'm totally out of time with you today. So remember my negative truth. Things will change. It's a part of life. How you respond to it is what makes all the difference in the world. So remember, mindset really does matter when it comes to managing change. And then, of course, I've talked about this a couple times now, prepare for the change. The more prepared you are for the change, the less anxious you're going to feel about it. Preparing means you know it's coming. You have mapped it out. You know what's coming down the pike for you. And then find support, even if you are wildly independent, because we are all better together. Other people have knowledge that you don't have, And that's okay. So you go find those people who can support you through this transition and help you manage this change. And then learning to embrace change. Learn to embrace change like it's a new opportunity to create something really, really wonderful. Don't look at it and be nervous or afraid. Look at it as a wonderful opportunity to create something new and exciting in your life. And then, of course, mindset matters. Your thoughts dictate your actions, and then your actions dictate your life. And so it boils down to being intentional. So if you're looking to manage some change that's coming down the road for you, these are the steps that you're going to need to get in front of so that you manage this change effectively. If you jump into something new without having spelled out a roadmap for yourself to help you navigate some of those things, you could end up full of anxiety, even full of fear. Some people, it actually leaves them feeling fearful, feeling like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. What have I done? And when we did the transition in our office last month, there was a bit of that. There was a few people saying, what have we done? This is terrible. Or I can't find my ex, right? Or where did that form go? Because things are different now. Even though I planned ahead and I tried really hard to make sure that we were all well prepared, it still was scary and full of angst for some staff members. Now, people like me were like, woohoo, this is great. This is exciting stuff. But not everyone was so exhilarated. Not everyone felt that way. So even though we planned well, it still was a little anxiety filled. So just be aware of that when you're moving into new change, either for yourself or those around you, that there could be some feelings of anxiousness. There could be some angst for you or for others. So just be aware of that and try to plan accordingly. And then we talked a little tiny bit about self-care, but sometimes self-care is about just stepping away and say, okay, I need to breathe this through and then come back and say, all right, somebody help me with this because I'm overwhelmed by this change that's happening. I don't know how to navigate this piece. Somebody come help me. That's self-care. Sometimes walking away and getting that next cup of coffee is what you really need. Take a breath. It's okay. I promise you that you're going to actually step into a time when it's a good thing. Something that I didn't talk about today, but since I have a couple minutes left, I just want to touch on is there's actually a learning cycle, a learning process for adults, right? There's the you don't know what you know don't know stage, right? Bliss, ignorance is bliss. You don't know what you don't know. But as we learn pretty soon, so that's unconscious incompetence. Pretty soon we've learned enough that we have conscious incompetence. Oh my gosh, I'm clueless. I'm incompetent and I now know it, right? But as we continue to move through the process, all of a sudden we become conscious and competent. We know what we're doing. We know how to do it. All is well, and it's going to be good, right? So see if we've moved to a totally different feeling in change. And then finally, we reach the coveted unconscious competence. We no longer have to think about each step, right? It's kind of like driving. You don't have to think about each step as you drive if you've been driving for years. You just get in, put your seatbelt on, or you should, start the car and you go. You don't think, okay, I need to push in the brake so my key will engage, so the engine will turn on, so that I can put it in gear, and then I can hit the gas so I can reverse, and then I'm going to stop. See, each of those steps, we don't have to think about them anymore because we've reached unconscious competence in that skill set. And any change that we make in life, the same thing is going to be true. We're going to go from unconsciously incompetent, unconsciously incompetent to unconsciously competent. We're going to know what we're doing, and we will have survived. We have managed that change. We have survived it. So So I have given you a lot to think about and a lot of information. I hope that it was helpful as you navigate that next change in your life, that next change you see coming, or that one that comes upon you suddenly that you didn't expect, but now you have a few tools to help you manage it more effectively, I hope. Of course, I like to give you an opportunity. If you have something you would like for me to talk about on the show, or if you would like to be on the show yourself, you're interested in being a guest on the show one of these weeks, please reach out to me at hello@clararose.com. So you can either drop me a line and say, hey, Clara, would you cover this topic? And I'm happy to research it and perhaps cover it for you. I'll even give you credit and say, hey, this was Joe from wherever wanted me to cover this topic, and I'm happy to cover it if I'm able to. I'm not an expert in everything, of course, but if it's entrepreneurially related or related to writing a book, it definitely is in my wheelhouse, and I am happy to give you that knowledge. Then if you would like to be on my show, same place, hello@clararose.com. Send me over just a little synopsis of what it is that you do, how I can look you up on social media, because I'm going to look you up before I get in touch with you, see if you are a good fit for the show, and if the show would be a good fit for you. I would love to have you on the show if that is true, if we're a good fit for each other. And I would love to bring you some more exposure as a business owner or a professional, because that is what helps us grow our businesses. And indeed, that's what we're all trying to do, right? That is why we're here today, to learn and grow. And I want to help you if I possibly can. And of course, my audience loves to have new people on the show. A couple of people to watch for in the coming months. We have a nutrition coach coming on. We have a fitness coach coming on. A couple other exciting people coming on that are kind of surprises right now. But anyway, tune in next week, same time, same place, and see what exciting things that I'm here to either share with you or some exciting person that I'm going to bring to meet you. Thank you for being here once again. I will see you next week. Take care.